Welcome to Chicago Style Parenting, where we delve into parenting life in Chicago and uncover the resources, information, and support that Chicago families need. I'm Amy Johnson, the Executive Director of Neighborhood Parents Network. Today, we'll be talking about parenting transitions from childbirth to the empty nest stage and how we can approach these transitions with confidence and calm. Our guest today is Claire Zawa. Claire is a certified mindful birthing and parenting teacher, a certified birth doula with experience as a postpartum doula, and a certified health and life coach. Deeply committed to being a part of the outsourced village, Claire seeks to create safe and welcoming spaces for curiosity and compassion to flourish, particularly during times of change. Welcome, Claire.
Thanks, Amy. I'm so happy to be here with you.
We're so happy to have you. So, mindfulness seems to be everywhere now. What is it really?
Yes, Amy. It is really a word that now it really is everywhere. I had a friend tell me she saw mindful pizza at the grocery store. So, it's in many ways it's wonderful that it is really just entered kind of everybody's vocabulary. And what we discover is it actually starts to mean different things to different people. So the context is really important to come back to at its core. The sort of working definition of mindfulness is the awareness that arises from paying attention on purpose, moment by moment, with curiosity and kindness. So the really like key pieces of mindfulness are about attention, intention, and attitude.
That's so interesting. I didn't know that curiosity and kindness were specifically attached to mindfulness.
Yeah. They're just two of the sort of core attitudes. Um, Other ones that come into this are non-judgmental attitude, which is, you know, actually what we mean by non-judgmental is we're not going to stop judging. We're just not going to judge ourselves when we judge,
Okay,
right? And things
that's
like
easier.
patience and trust. Often trust is more about self-reliance, right? Trusting in ourselves in that moment. Um, Being with or letting go or letting things be as they are. Non-striving. Again, with these non-attitudes, it's like, well, if I'm not supposed to do something, what am I supposed to do? So the non-striving points us to the fact that, again, our minds want to compare. We want to have goals. We want to reach new heights. And that striving can get into overdrive and really ultimately be detrimental. So it's noticing, oh, there's an expectation, there's something I'm reaching for. Am I doing this in a wholesome, supportive, actually productive way, or is it actually making things worse, harder for me? So yeah, this all these attitudes are interconnected. Kindness, curiosity are really great ones when we come to that definition point because um, most people can tap into, oh yeah, I know what it's like to be curious. Oh, what is it like right now, right? And to tap into that desire to connect to that kind of inner basic kindness that we can feel for ourselves and for others.
That's both simple and very complicated.
Yes, it really is. And a saying that we have in mindfulness is real. It's really that. It's that this is a really simple invitation and it is not always easy.
Yeah.
And the mindfulness piece, we are actually all born mindful. When we think about a newborn baby, right? That newborn baby is not thinking about the past or imagining the future. They are living moment by moment. We all started out that way, right? And it's
Yeah.
just as we age and move through the world, we can forget to just be right where we are. So mindfulness is also really about a remembering this
Yeah.
capacity, this ability.
Yeah. Of course, we have to plan for the future, and it's
Yeah.
good, I think, to have goals for ourselves. But
Yes.
you're saying the way we approach those is not that we can't plan or we can't have goals, but there's an attitude th- of my, there's a way to look at that or to approach those goals and
Yeah,
those plans that can be mindful or not.
exactly. And that we don't spend all of our life rehashing the past or imagining the future.
Mm, mhm.
Right? Because when we do that, when we get lost in the thought or stuck in the thought, then we're actually missing the moments of our lives as they are happening in real time.
So we have to have a healthy balance of
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's about balance, it's about, you know, most of us are not practicing mindfulness in a monastery on a silent mountaintop,
Right.
right?
Mhm.
And so that's another piece of mindfulness is it's about a sort of recontextualization of these really ancient contemplative practices, recontextualizing them into daily life. So
Yeah.
it's not about a perfect, silent, quiet, calm, right? Mindfulness isn't about relaxing or being peaceful. Because moment by moment, that's not how everyone's gonna feel all the time.
Right.
So mindfulness is also, again, this sort of it's simple but not easy. Mindfulness is inviting us to be in these moments of our lives in the fullness of the experience.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. I think we could stay on this question number 1 for
I know.
5 podcasts,
Yeah.
5 podcast episodes, 5 conversations. Um, but while we contemplate that, I want to move on to ask, how is mindfulness relevant or helpful to having a baby?
Yeah. So we went from that big broad, right, like mindfulness, okay, being in our lives moment by moment.
Yeah.
The experience of having a baby is this truly life-changing event. And so in mindful birthing, we are providing an opportunity for expectant parents, whether you're the pregnant person, whether you're the supportive partner, to come into preparing for labor with this sort of lens, right? And with tools because as I feel like if a stranger walks down the street and sees a pregnant person, it's like a 50-50 chance that that stranger is going to be like, "Oh, you're pregnant. Let me tell you this, that, and the other. Your whole life is about to change." Or let me tell you my often terrible, scary birth
Right.
story, or like, right?
Mhm.
And so when we think about bringing mindfulness into birth specifically, it's about offering perhaps new or different ways to both think about what's coming ahead, that sort of planning and preparing,
Mhm.
and using the daily experiences of your life as real ways to prepare for working with contractions, birth, and then parenting from there on.
Okay. A big part of birth worries or fears is about how much it is going to hurt. So, what does being mindful mean for the pain of labor?
Yeah. This is one of my favorite parts of mindful birthing, right? As we have this really beautiful teaching on looking where we look at pain. And we're really clear about this, right? Mindful birthing does not mean you're going to have a pain-free labor, right?
Yeah.
Mindful birthing is not going to guarantee any kind of outcome because really no childbirth preparation class can guarantee an outcome. Yeah.
Right.
And
Mhm.
in mindfulness, like we're really cognizant of that. There are so many things that are beyond control in an unfolding birth experience.
Yeah.
And so I often will say to folks working with me, right, like, there will be pain. and what actually is pain, right? And so if we start, right, if we kind of set the birth piece off to the side and say like, well, okay, pain, what is that? Well, actually, pain is a sensation somewhere in the body that sends a signal to the brain to pay attention. That's actually all that pain is. So at its core, right, like that's really important. That's life-saving. We actually want to be able to feel pain. That's how we stay safe in the world.
Right? I mean, I hadn't thought of it like that, but yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, in most of our lives, when we experience pain, usually it means we're either injured or we're ill, right?
Mhm. Right.
And in both of those scenarios, when we're injured or we're ill, we need to seek support, help, medical attention, right?
Yeah.
And so those signals, right, injury and illness, then tend to generate that emotion of fear, right? Because again, like historically over the course of a life, pain has been some potentially somewhat scary or fearful event. When we think about childbirth, someone in labor is not injured and they are not ill when we focus on the labor piece, right? There
Mhm.
might be other elements of a person's experience when they are in labor that they're navigating chronic illness, recovering from injury, right? But when we focus on the actual birth piece, you're not injured, you're not ill when you're in labor and giving birth. So, in mindful birthing, we introduce this new category of pain that we call transformational pain. This is the pain of being human, right?
Yeah.
And when we think about transformational pain in labor, it happens on a very, very biologically fast timeline, right? It takes about 9 months to grow the baby in the placenta. And then anywhere from a few hours to like maybe 2 or 3 days max, that
Mhm.
baby is out. That's really fast in a lifespan, right?
It seems long in the moment, but
It
I hear
does.
you.
It
In a lifespan,
does.
right? It's
Yeah,
a blink of an eye.
it
Yeah.
is. And, and then when we think about this idea of transformation, well, giving birth, like the birthing person is literally something is coming from inside their body moving out. They are being transformed physically, but also when we think about the sort of more emotional and mental experience of becoming a parent, this is a transformation again for both the birthing person and if there's a partner, right? You are
Yeah.
transformed into this new version of you. And another way to think about transformational pain is when we think about a newborn baby and in that first year of life, teething is transformational pain. They're not your new little baby is not injured, they are not ill. They are experiencing pain as their teeth are literally breaking through the gum lines,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And then as we think beyond, right, growing pains in a
Mhm.
growing body, I,
Mhm.
I sort of lovingly joke puberty is kind of an extended period of transformational
Mhm.
pain. And then even as we get into the sort of other end of the lifespan, the aging body, when there's not necessarily anything injured or ill, it's just the body doing the work of living over time that is often physically painful.
Yeah.
So, okay, transformational pain, childbirth. Yes, it's going to hurt. And this is then where we can bring in sort of some of the work of mindfulness of when we lean into sort of formal mindfulness meditations like an awareness of breathing or a body scan, or even informal mindfulness like doing activities, tying your shoes, washing your hands, right? These are all moments where we can get more familiar with breaking down the components of pain. So there's the sensation in the body, then there's the thoughts and the emotions, and they're all
Okay.
interconnected. But mindfulness gives us an opportunity to, we talk about as uncoupling, bringing space to be able to notice, oh, I stubbed my toe. It's my right big toe. It's sharp. It's shooting. It's radiating up my leg. The thoughts then say, oh, Claire, you know where that coffee table is. You are moving too fast, kind of beating myself up about it. And all of that happens within seconds.
Yeah. Right.
But when we kind of get more and more practice of like teasing apart, oh, okay, what is actually a physical sensation? What is the thought? What is the emotion? When we start to notice those things more, then we also start to see how then our choices or behaviors move from that place. We often talk about pain is in the body, suffering is in the mind. They're connected. This is a mind body connection. Birth is absolutely a mind body connection. So, how do we work with it as opposed to trying to control or separate or, right, like remove the unpleasant
Yeah.
part?
So you're saying we have to um we can't take away the pain of stubbing our toe or take
Mhm.
away some of the pain of childbirth. I mean, there's epidurals and whatnot, but at some point
Mhm.
you're in pain before you get that epidural or what
Yep.
you could probably
Or
talk
the
more.
pain of your body recovering after having a baby, right?
Right.
Postpartum recovery.
Right. So we can't remove that pain, but we can change our brain to as to how we think about it.
Yeah, it's like a mindset shift. That's right,
Hmm.
Amy. It's a perspective shift, right?
Yeah.
And it comes in different ways. It comes in the actual words we use to describe it, saying something like transformational pain as opposed to pain. It can also be in how we talk about contractions. So that's the painful part, right?
Yeah.
And the contraction is the uterus getting hard. It's tightening, right? A birthing person can put their hand on their belly and it's like there's a watermelon in there. And at the same time that the uterus is contracting and tightening, the cervix is stretching or expanding. We call them contractions.
Hmm.
We could call them contraction expansions because they are literally happening at the same time.
Hmm.
And so even, right, when we hear the words contraction, most of us like feel like a right. And when we hear the word expansion, we're like, oh, right, there's like more space. So it's a lot of this is, yeah, it's mindset, it's perspective. It's this is again where we get curious. Don't know. We never know exactly how any one particular labor will unfold.
Hmm.
Just like we don't know exactly how those painful sensations are going to feel in an individual's body because it is an internal, right, deeply personal. What does it feel? How intense does it feel? How am I managing? Another important part of this transformational pain in labor is that the pain is intermittent. It stops and starts. These contraction expansions tend, not always, tend to follow a wave-like pattern where the sensation will arise, it will increase in intensity, it will fade away, and then there'll be a break before the next contraction expansion. Now, I always like to be really sensitive to the experience of back labor, where that release of pain tends to potentially not be there in back labor. It's kind of like more pain, less pain, as opposed to pain and no pain, right?
Yeah.
And so then, when someone's experiencing the pain of back labor, when we bring in this mindfulness piece, okay, moment by moment, someone's breathing every moment of labor, right?
Mhm.
Moment by moment, we're breathing and we're in this body. Even in the experience of back labor, there may be a glimpse of the sensation is changing. It's a little less. It didn't go away, but it's not as big as it was before.
Mhm.
And a fun little fact, right? The average length of a contraction, expansion, and labor is about a minute.
Okay.
And that peak intensity of sensation is about 3 to 5 seconds of that minute. That's one breath. So when we break it down, right, in an hour of active labor, when contractions are happening once every 5 minutes, we're talking
Mhm.
about 12 breaths of intense pain
Mhm.
in an hour, or 12 minutes of intense of sensation in the
Mhm.
hour, but it's intermittent.
Right.
And
So
also, it doesn't like literally it doesn't last forever. That baby will come out. That baby has to come out.
right. Right. Right.
And that's the other part of transformational pain is there's an end, and often we are different at the end of that, right? When we have a migraine, we are just in pain. It's
Yeah.
not it's not getting us anything, it's not giving us anything, right? When
Yeah.
you're in labor, you're getting a baby.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, it is absolutely understandable that pain signals fear and that there are fears about childbirth.
Mhm.
And again, in mindful birthing, we're not trying to take away the pain, we're not trying to take away the fear. We're trying to meet it. We're trying to say, if this is part of your experience, let's be really clear about it, right? Let's meet it because often when we resist something, when we're afraid of something and there's a struggle and there's a pushing away, that can intensify the discomfort and the suffering and the pain.
Yeah, I really liked something that you said in an earlier conversation with
Mhm.
Neighborhood Parents Network about um, a different way to think about childbirth. What if it's not a good childbirth or a bad childbirth experience, but a transformational experience? And I thought that really took the pressure off because as an expecting parent, you really do hear a lot about wanting a good experience or an ideal
Mhm.
experience, and you have so little control over that. So you're kind of striving, we're going back to striving for
Mhm.
something that you really cannot control. But if you accept it as a transformational, you want the transformation, that's gonna that's gonna happen.
Yeah, and right, and that's like a whole different way to approach it
Yeah.
of yeah, I often say to folks like all change all change is like this is the constant. Everything about our lives. We really as with our big prefrontal rational brains, right? We do a lot to control and to resist change. But actually, again, when we come into the moment by moment experience of what it means to be alive, every moment is new.
Yeah.
So we can, right? So then we can approach, okay, this change in my life of becoming a parent or even just the birth experience. And again, we're we're not saying it doesn't matter. This is not about being passive. Oh, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. It's kind of actually quite the opposite.
Hmm.
That there's a real activation, a real partnership, a real engagement for a mindful birthing person. Um, it's that when there's that acknowledgement, okay, change is inevitable, I can label it as good or bad. And that's going to really color how I feel about it and how I think about it and how I feel about myself.
Yeah.
Right. Or, yeah,
Hmm.
or that invitation of like, well, if the change is inevitable, then what is it like to be open to it and be like, well, this, let's see who I am now.
Right.
Right.
Right. Mhm.
And we bring this in to, well, this is, people come to a mindful birthing class because they're pregnant, but we're really sowing the seeds for this is about the rest of your life as a parent.
Yeah.
What a newborn baby wants is this affectionate attention.
Mhm.
I am being reminded every day that what my 4-year-old wants is my affectionate attention.
Mhm.
From my friends and colleagues in this work, the same is true of a teenager.
Mhm.
The same is true of that young adult leaving the home, whether it's, going into the workforce or going off to college.
Well, that brings me to my next question, and that there are so many aspects of parenting that are bittersweet and also downright painful, frankly. At what other stages of parenting, you spoke to just a second ago a little bit, but at what other stages of parenting do you hear parents describe as particularly challenging or painful? And can parents approach that pain or other pain in the same way that you described approaching the pain of childbirth?
Yeah. I think some of the big pain points come, I mean, right away with a newborn. When your newborn is crying in the middle of the night and you have changed the diaper, they are fed, they are, warm, they're cuddly, and just as a parent, for many of us, right, that instinct to want to soothe, to take away, right, to solve. And we
Mhm.
can't always do that for a crying baby. So one of the many tools that shows up in labor and with a newborn is something that we call a walking meditation, where you're up in the middle of the night, you're holding that baby, they are crying, and you are just, walking laps around your house
Yeah.
and bringing that intention. Okay, I'm holding my baby. I feel the weight of my baby. I can hear them crying. I am also in my body and I am breathing. Am I breathing fast or slow? I'm walking. Do I actually feel my feet on the floor? Right? So, one part of mindfulness is about training the mind on that attention piece. What am I paying attention to? What am I focusing on? Other things are happening around me. But
Yeah.
when I focus my attention, let's say on the breath, okay, my baby's crying. I'm breathing really fast and it's short and okay, so from that place of awareness, I can now make the choice. I'm going to take a slow, deeper breath. I'm going to tend to this body. And
Mhm.
often what new parents find is when their breathing slows down and their nervous system calms down, that crying baby will also calm down. It's where we get into co-regulation, which I'm not going to talk more about right now. But
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so this is where, as the parent, when we keep connecting into our own experience, what's happening for us, we can then show up for that crying newborn. Tantrums. Tantrums are a huge pain point. Those can happen anytime, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
And then they take a different form when it's a preteen or teen,
Mhm.
storming off, slamming doors. That's a contraction of living as a parent. There's
Yeah.
a tightening, right? There's
Right?
a desire for connection and expansion.
Mhm.
Um, and again, right, as a parent, what we often say in mindful birthing is that your child can be the greatest mindfulness teacher you ever had if you're paying attention.
Mm.
And that holds true at every age because our child will constantly remind us to be curious. Oh my gosh. I mean, it's cicada season here right now in Chicago, right? And it's my child's first experience of like cicada shells and cicadas. And so when I drop into that with him, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is wild,
Yeah.
right? The wonder, the excitement, the awe, and the like when we're deep in a tantrum, like it's painful for me too.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this invitation about being present and with our own selves, but also being present with the people we're actually with,
Yeah.
being in relationship, can really, yeah, it really comes in at any pain point as we move through our parenting journey.
Yeah. Observe, take care of our bodies, be curious.
Mhm. Yeah.
What practical advice do you have for new, expecting, and experienced parents who are facing a big transition?
Yeah. So I think what comes to mind is to take care of yourself, right? So to tend to your body, mind, and spirit. That's
Mhm.
gonna show up in different ways for different people, but to genuinely, right, what do I need in this moment? And to remind yourself that you are not alone. You are not the only person in labor. You are not the only person awake in the middle of the night with a crying baby. You
Mhm.
are not the only parent worrying about their child's future. And this is where this points us into a kind of specific vein of practice around mindful self-compassion, which is taking this sort of baseline of mindfulness and then building in more of these tools around self-regulation, self-soothing. Um, there's pathways through mindfulness to communication, right? This is where then we get back out into like how mindfulness can be literally in anything we are doing. We can bring this mindful awareness. And so
Yeah.
that I think that advice for parents at any stage is you are not alone. Like you are literally not the only person on the planet experiencing whatever you're experiencing right now. How you're experiencing it is totally unique to you.
Mhm.
And so in this moment, what is it that you need right now?
Yeah.
That's yeah. And this is hard. This is the hardest, I think the hardest job on the planet is to be a parent. It's
Yeah.
also the most important.
Yeah. It's hard to argue with that, Claire. Just to follow up on that, when you're saying, ask yourself what you need in that moment, do you mean practical things that you can provide right to yourself right then? Like, I need a glass of water, I need to sit down. Or are you talking about a larger concept? Like, I need this large thing to change so I can
Mm,
go to step B.
that's a great question, Amy. I think what I mean in the moment is like literally practically. Are you
Yeah.
thirsty? Are you hungry? Are you tired? Do you need to just step away for a moment? Because
Yeah.
when we tend to the needs in the moment, that actually gives us the capacity, the resources, the ability to then begin to take those steps towards action. And that action is going to come from this wiser, kinder place that's more responsive, that's
Yeah.
going to, I mean, in a very, in a really like grand scheme way of this, like mindfulness is a pathway to personal growth and change, but also like societal systemic change. Like, what if everybody were kinder and more curious,
Yeah. I mean, wouldn't that be wonderful?
right? But it
Yeah.
starts in the moment with, okay, wow, I haven't eaten in 5 hours. I should eat something. I bet my brain will work better when my body is nourished,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
And we can all do that.
Yeah.
We can sit down, we can have a sandwich, we can get a drink of water, we can walk around the block. We can
Yeah.
we can start there.
And if what we discover in that moment is like, I'm so stuck, I don't even know
Yeah.
what to do first. Maybe it's being able to turn to another person and say, I don't know what to do right now. Right?
Yeah.
So this is also like mindfulness is about building inner capacity, inner reserves. It is also about relation,
Yeah.
how we connect with other people, how we ask for support, how we offer, right? Giving and
Mhm.
receiving support and kindness. Yeah. And for most of us, this is the work of a lifetime.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that the work of a lifetime.
Yeah.
It never stops, and
Yeah.
we can get better at it as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think actually, I just thought of one other piece of advice I want to offer to parents. We will inevitably blow it. We will make mistakes. We
Yeah.
won't do things the way we wish we had. Those are opportunities to come back to this piece of like, okay, so what happens now? How do I recover? How do I repair? How do I apologize? How do I how do I do better next time? But as a parent, there's no perfect, there's no one way, there's no one perfect birth, there's no one right way to parent. This is where it's this deeply unique personal journey. So, a piece of advice, be really nice to yourself when you blow it.
Yeah. Because
Don't
everybody does.
because everybody does. And actually, that's how we learn.
Yeah.
The
Right.
founder of Mindful Birthing is this amazing midwife. Her name is Nancy Bardicki. She's out in the Bay Area. She's in her 80s. She's amazing. She likes to say, it's not a mistake, it's a mistake. I was like,
I
oh,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah,
She
that's
has,
a comfort.
she has so many great gems. But that
Yeah.
one, as a parent, I'm deep into making mistakes right
Yeah.
now.
Mhm.
And I recognize that if I were beating myself up about it, my suffering would be through the roof and I wouldn't be learning. I wouldn't be able to show up for myself or my child.
Right.
So
Yeah,
like,
that's so
okay,
true.
yep, that last night was really rough. Okay, what can I try different next time?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's a comfort and an inspiration. Thank you so much, Claire.
yeah. Thank you, Amy. It's clearly I love talking about this stuff.
Well, it's all valuable information. How can parents reach you if they'd like to follow up with you?
Yeah, so the easiest way is to reach out to me through my website, mindfulbirthingchicago.com. You're not going to find me on social media. Sorry. It's just not how I operate in the world. So the website is going to be the best bet. And then it's really easy to connect if you want to, if you've got questions, if you're preparing to parent, if you're already parenting, if you are having some other life transitions that you want some of this mindful, self compassionate, curious support for, very happy to connect with folks.
Well, that sounds great. We'll put the link to your website in our show notes so parents can reach you and get your contact information that way. Listeners, we hope that you enjoyed this episode. Check out our show notes for a link to learn more about Claire and her business, Mindful Birthing and Parenting Chicago. In our show notes, you can also tell us what else you'd like to hear about and who you'd like to hear from next by completing a quick form. Hit the subscribe button to stay in the loop, and we'll see you around the neighborhood.